Can Canada and India reset relations amid accusations of state-sanctioned murder? Both have expelled each other's top diplomats after Canada's Prime Minister accused India of assassinating a Sikh separatist on Canadian soil. India denies any involvement, saying Canada has shown no proof it ordered the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. So, what is the evidence? And is it worth sacrificing a crucial diplomatic relationship? I'm Andrea Sankey, and this is the Newsmakers. The Canadian community of Sikh separatists has long been a thorn in the side of relations between Ottawa and Delhi. But recently, things have escalated to dangerous new heights. India has largely contained the issue of Sikh separatism at home, but in Canada, it's alive and well. The murder of Canadian citizen Hardeep Singh Nijjar, along with accusations that Indian diplomats were directly involved, has reopened the long-festering wounds between both countries. Canada's refusal to provide India with the evidence it claims implicates Delhi itself has only served to inflame the situation. Here's a look now at how this massive diplomatic dispute unfolded.
In the quiet Vancouver suburb of Surrey, a shocking act of violence in June 2023. Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a prominent local Sikh leader, was gunned down outside his temple or Gurudwara. It was a murder with huge consequences. It ignited a diplomatic storm that would grow into the largest crisis in Canada-India relations in history. Nijjar was a key advocate for an independent Sikh homeland in India, which would be known as Khalistan, and an influential voice among Canada's Sikh diaspora, a group that has long pushed for independence from India. His assassination triggered protests both in India's Punjab region, where Khalistan sentiments erupted in the 1980s, and in Canada, home to nearly 800,000 Sikhs.
Hardeep Singh Nijjar was a political activist. He was a community activist as well, and he was doing everything under the law. He had no criminal record, and he was advocating for through peaceful means, but he was murdered. So India chose violence. India chose to murder a Canadian on Canadian soil, and they will pay the price.
The roots of this conflict stretch back decades. In 1984, India launched a military operation at the Golden Temple, Sikhism's holiest site, killing hundreds of separatists. This event marked a turning point, leading to Sikh extremists retaliating by bombing Air India Flight 182 the following year. The flight had left Montreal and was on its way to London, Delhi and Mumbai when it disintegrated over the Atlantic Ocean, killing over 300 people in what was the worst terrorist attack in Canada ever. Almost 40 years later, those tensions resurfaced when in September 2023, Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau made a stunning accusation.
Over the past number of weeks, Canadian security agencies have been actively pursuing credible allegations of a potential link between agents of the government of India and the killing of a Canadian citizen, Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
India responded with outrage, rejecting the allegation and accusing Canada of harbouring separatists. It also accused Trudeau of smearing India for political gain.
So far, Canada has not given any evidence in support of the very serious allegations that they've leveled against India and against Indian diplomats. We also see there is a pattern. The pattern is motivated by political considerations on the part of the Canadian Trudeau government. And there is also, as we have said, there's a clear pattern to smear India for reasons best known to them.
Then in October last year, Canada recalled 41 of its diplomats from India after Delhi said it would revoke their immunity and security protection. And talks between the two governments have ground to a halt. In May this year, Canadian authorities arrested 3 Indian nationals and charged them in connection with Nijjar's murder. The trial, still ongoing, has left the two countries locked in a diplomatic standoff, which took yet another turn last week when Trudeau said all evidence suggests Indian agents were involved in Nijjar's murder. Canada expelled 6 Indian diplomats, while Delhi responded by expelling 6 Canadians in a tit-for-tat move.
Well, joining me now to debate what's behind this diplomatic meltdown and just how much is at stake between Canada and India are from San Francisco, Sikh researcher, writer, and community organizer Amandeep Singh. From Montreal, former Canadian senior intelligence officer Michel Juneau-Katsuya. And from Madhya Pradesh, India, geopolitical analyst Gulrez Sheikh. Thanks all so much for being with me. Let me start in Canada. Michel, India's main contention here is that Canada has made these grave accusations yet refuses to provide evidence. So let's start there. Why not provide the proof that allegedly implicates Delhi in the murder of Hardeep Singh Nijjar?
2 things. Canada did try to provide confidentially the evidence to India. We sent even the second in command of the RCMP to India itself, and they refused to meet with him. As it is to present the evidence publicly, the criminal system in Canada prevent to reveal evidence out of court before the proceeding, because it would be a prejudice to the defense of the accused individual. So currently there's 4 individuals that have been arrested, and we are saving the evidence for the court procedure, so that people will have a full defense.
But to be clear, you're saying India was offered a certain level of evidence that is available but would need to keep it confidential, and India had refused?
Exactly. We sent the number 2 RCMP officer in the deputy commissioner to India to present the evidence. We try also through diplomatic connection as well. Canada doesn't want to have a crisis with India. Unfortunately, India have decided to treat Canada differently of the American, for example, because the Americans are exactly in the same situation. They arrested 1 man and indicted one guy, and a former intelligence officer from India who was working in the office of Mr. Modi. And they decided, India, to send a delegation to the U.S. to have a conversation, because the U.S. is much bigger than Canada, and they don't want necessarily to have this conflict with them. But when we sent our people to try to defuse the situation, they don't want even to talk to us, because it served the internal policy of Mr. Modi to rally the nationalist movement within his nation around him and to keep him in power. So unfortunately, we are victims in that perspective of internal policy.
Okay, Gulrez, let me ask you that then. I mean, is it on India refusing to accept what evidence is available because it will not keep it confidential, at least until the trial is complete? And is India treating Canada differently than it's treating similar circumstances with the United States?
First of all, they are not having any evidence. And when Mr. Justin Trudeau was in oath, he just said one thing, that he got evidences, and he has got in. He did not have any evidence, but he has inputs of intelligence. So in that manner, I can also say that I am having inputs that Mr. Justin Trudeau takes money from China and he's a thief. That doesn't make any sense. No, he should have told. He should have presented those all things which he has as an evidence under oath, but he did not did it because he was not having anything. It was just he was telling all these things. And even the Conservative Party of Canada, what they are saying, that Mr. Justin Trudeau is doing all these things to divert the political attention of Canadians from the main issues like inflation and joblessness and all those pains in Canada. So in that manner, he has not presented any evidence. He has just going on rhetoric, and that's all. And it is Mr. Justin Trudeau who is actually single-handedly responsible for worsening of relationship between India and Canada, and nobody else is responsible.
So both sides are hurling these accusations of having political motives for their behavior. But Gulrez, help us understand why you think Canada would want to throw relations with India under the bus. It's a very important diplomatic relationship. To what? To protect Sikh separatists in Canada? Why?
Why Canada allowed the effigy of former Prime Minister of India, Mrs. Gandhi, to be displayed while that a terrorist was shooting her. Do you do the same things with your other friendly countries? Will you do it with JF Kennedy sitting in his car and somebody shooting him? You won't do it. So this shows what Canada, where Canada is going and what they are doing. And as far as Mr. Justin Trudeau is concerned, he is actually the bandwagon of wokeism throughout the world. And we are seeing the geopolitics going on around the world, and many in the West want to arm twist India so that India will work as per their wish and whims. But India is
you're not answering the question.
powerful country, and India has a free foreign policy. So this guy who is a bandwagon of all this wokeism in the world, he was telling lies and tried to arm twist India on behalf of other countries.
But you're not answering the question.
Yeah,
You're not answering the question.
Let me get Amandeep.
Why Canada would do such a thing?
Let me get Amandeep then into. Let me get
Sovereign
Amandeep into the conversation with the same question, Gulrez. Hold on a second. Amandeep saying, as we said, there are those who say Canada is sacrificing too much of its relationship with an important trade partner just to protect these Sikh nationalists. I mean, is that what's happening?
I think there's a little bit too much Bollywood drama going on here. Everything looks like a conspiracy to the Indians. There's just simply no political calculus that makes sense here. If Trudeau is trying to win votes, you don't start a diplomatic fire with a major trade partner to win re-election. If you just do the math, if you look at the number of Sikhs in Canada, if it's about a voter calculation, there are 771,000. There are 828,000 Hindus in Canada alone.
Okay,
not to mention
this is the problem. I'm sorry,
the
because
alienation they would face from.
He was saying it's not about winning votes; it's about distracting Canadian voters. That was more the accusation.
Right,
Hold on. Let Amandeep finish. Let Amandeep finish. Go ahead.
Right. I think there's no calculus here to be for it to be rational. Canada's intelligence is credible. It has Five Eyes behind it. It's not just Canada. There's 2 indictments. I don't know if you understand the definition of indictment here, Mr. Gulrez. Indictment means essentially that the state has already determined that they have enough evidence to convict and to charge somebody. So that means, they have the man in jail. Your man is in jail. The other man has been arrested in India. Your government has arrested the other person in India.
During G20 meeting,
U.S. has extradited one from Czechoslovakia. This is not a game. And I think the problem that we need to look step back and kind of look at the big picture. 1 second. I'll let you talk. We
can't hear you properly, so let's just let Amandeep finish, and then we'll come back to you. Sorry, Amandeep, finish your thoughts.
Right. I think it's worth stepping back a little bit and just looking at the magnitude of what's going on. Just to put this in context, India has been caught red-handed. They have turned their embassies into command centers and control centers for assassinations and extortions. And this has happened after Trudeau made the accusation last year. So the shootings of Punjabi singers, the extortions of Sikh businessmen, the setting on fire of Sikh houses, this has happened after the accusation. So India has intensified, and it's used mafia networks and its own agents within the gangster networks here to set up an image that their South Asians are violent inherently, and most of them are Sikh. So it's absurd, the level of, this is Bollywood level fiction. You can't make this stuff up. So if you really want to look at the calculus here, and I would love an answer, why would a sitting president who has a strong opposition jeopardize a larger voter base of Hindu Indians, just to go after, for what? It really doesn't make sense. I mean, this is just India's denial playbook. They deny everything. You can give them hard evidence, and they will say that we can't understand it. And U.S. just gave an indictment, 2 of them. How is that
Okay.
not evidence? It's corroborating.
I need to get the Canadian perspective on this then quickly, Michel, because, yeah, how much interest is there? I mean, here's one of the accusations against Canada, though, is that somehow the government in power is invested with the Sikh community to a point that they are willing to go to bat for them on the international stage and engage in this diplomatic standoff with India. But then we ask, how important is the Hindu-based Canadian population, which has, by numbers, a lot more voting power in Canada? So, right, that's what the accusation is. Is there some interest that is very influential among the Sikh community with Justin Trudeau and his party?
No, I totally concur with the previous analysis. I don't think Canada has calculated to try to sort of diminish India. On the contrary, when we had our crisis with China around the Huawei issue and the 2 Michaels being arrested, we decided to reorientate our economy towards Indo-Asia. So India has always been extremely in the center of this strategy in order to be a great partner. But it's not been has not been the situation. Has not been the situation because India has actively for decades now sent undercover agent, use its diplomatic relationship to influence the Indo-Canadian society and create turmoils within. It makes absolutely no sense. It's illogical to go and upset the relationship. One thing that is also unacceptable is definitely when we have now evidence that a government has ordered the killing of individuals in a foreign country, particularly a democratic country that is supposed to be a partner. So in that perspective, I do not agree at all with the analysis of the Indian government. And unfortunately, we see actions, the actions of treating Canada differently than the U.S., despite the fact that there is indictment in the U.S. and there is indictment in Canada. We're talking about 6 people now being arrested in related cases together.
Okay.
And India is not capable to look at that.
Okay, Gulrez, I know you've been anxious to get in, and there's a lot to respond to there, so go ahead.
See, there are many things which should be talked about. Number one, what Mr. Singh was telling me that why will Justin Trudeau jeopardize the Hindu votes for Sikh votes? The issue is not of Sikh votes or radical Sikh votes there in Canada. The issue is his government is due to and working due to Jagmeet Singh's party, the NDP party, and that is the reason. And he has all the buttons which he presses. And that guy Jagmeet Singh, who is he? You just go into details.
So he owns
he's a radical
NDP.
person.
Jagmeet Singh is a personal owner of NDP.
Let me complete.
Hold on, let
And
Gulrez finish so we can get the...
What my fellow panelists from Canada was talking about Indian embassies and Indian diplomats. I just tell him that was a blatant lie, but I am daring him to say the same thing about Mossad and CIA working in Israeli and United States of American embassies. Just tell that thing.
I'll say exactly the same thing, and I'll confirm to you that we have declared.
I'm talking about
let me finish. Let me finish.
Hold on, this is about Canada, so let's let Michel respond there. Sorry, Michel, go ahead.
We have asked American officers and Israeli officers to leave the country privately, just like we've done in the past with Indian operators that got caught. But this time you went too far, and that forced the RCMP to declare 6 of you to leave because of the activities that they've done in Canada. But we have no difference. We have expulsed Americans and we have expulsed Israeli before in the past, just like we've done for you if they were not respecting their diplomatic duty.
It's interesting.
I would like to add one quick point.
Go ahead, Amandeep.
If it's allowed.
Go ahead.
Yes, so there's intelligence, Five Eyes intelligence. There's 2 indictments, 1 man in jail, 4 in Canada. And there's also a growing international backing of Canadian stance. And what's very interesting is the silence from the Indian side. There's no substantial counter evidence. There's blanket denials. There's no facts to back them up. This is the general Indian playbook of denial. They have denied genocide of Sikhs. They have denied the genocide of Dalits and the violence against Muslims. And all of this is pretty standard, denial playbook of India.
Okay.
If there was anything, they would have called them out.
Let me ask.
Would have been called out substantively.
Okay. Gulrez, I'm going to let you respond quickly, and then I have a question for Michel. Go ahead, Gulrez.
I will love to ask the whole panel one thing. If there were concrete evidences, why the hell Mr. Justin Trudeau, when he was in oath, did not produce it? There is a $1 billion question. If he was having evidences in his hand, he would have presented it in front of media under oath. But he just said that we are having inputs from intelligence, and input from intelligence means nothing. They are not evidences.
We will, and I did answer that earlier today. I said we will present the evidence in court according to the rule of law.
So we'll have to wait for that.
Any evidence?
Okay. I need to come back. I need to come back to Michel on this. We'll have to see how this unfolds in a court of law, because that is Canada's statement here. They have offered the Indian government confidential evidence, and the government, according to Canada, says it refuses to keep it confidential. So fine. We'll wait for the trial to develop and see what comes out of that. But let me ask Michel this, because there is some popular sentiment within India that asks, you know, it says this is not about extraterritorial killings and Canada being angry that, you know, one Sikh nationalist was murdered on its territory. It is about how would Canada feel if there were an indigenous movement of separatists who'd formed a community in India. What would Canada say? That this is for Michel. This is bigger. This is bigger than a few extraterritorial killings. Go ahead, Michel.
We do have separatist movement within Canada, and we do allow separatist movement to even get in power. The province of Quebec, for example, had elected separatist movement. Currently, as we speak, there is a few political parties that will promote separation of the province of Quebec from Canada. But in Canada, we allow the freedom of speech. We allowed also the free expression without turning into violence. But we didn't genocide the French Canadian because they wanted to separate.
But there are also Indian Canadians who say, you know, doesn't the bombing of Air India Flight 182 loom large enough in Canada's memory to have some more sympathy for India here? I mean, it was labeled the biggest terror attack in Canada's history. It killed hundreds of innocent people. And they ask, maybe that potential for violence is part of the movement for an independent Khalistan that exists in Canada now.
I was the chief of Asia Pacific in the period of time. If I was the chief of Asia Pacific, India was one of our main customer with China when it comes to collaboration with cooperation. We work with India. Canada has its internal issues, unfortunately, and it failed to produce the conviction that we wanted in the case of Air India. But we did cooperate through the years, through the decades with them. We did also ask them to stop meddling with the community and provoking the community in order to provoke us, the authority, to do more. There's a rule of law in Canada. We will respect the rule of law. If you have issues, you can also extradite. But we didn't have any extradition process that was sort of valuable and presented in such a manner that we were capable to proceed in court. Extradition between India and Canada does exist.
Okay, Amandeep, quick final thoughts, and then Gulrez, I'll give you your final words. Go ahead.
Yes, just again to step back a little bit and just utter this. Khalistan is the insane idea that Sikhs are human beings, that they belong to a community of modern political subjects who have a right over their political destiny.
That's what most separatist movements say, yeah.
Right, and there's nothing criminal about that. there's nothing criminal inherently about asking for self-determination, about challenging the colonial police state that's a product of the greatest catastrophe of modern era British colonialism. That's the only reason India as a political unit exists today, because British colonialism came
It's
to
interesting,
came
though,
to South
Amandeep,
Asia.
because a lot of Sikhs in India are not pro-independence. But okay, we only have 30 seconds left. Gulrez, I just need to give you quick final words. Go ahead.
That was the same thing I was going to say, that in India, the Sikh state of Punjab is very peaceful, and they are very patriotic people. They mainly
Suggest you look at the elections that happened this year.
I
would
why
ask you to look at the
they are
election
Australia
results of
and
this year.
They
We
are
had
being
two candidates. One of them
Number
is
two,
the son
I
of the
want to
person
give some
who
message to
assassinated
Jagmeet in the native
the
language.
prime
Why
minister.
Jagmeet? वहाँ बैठ के क्या करता है?
Open up
इंडिया में आप
the
बात
data.
करेंगे.
Okay, gentlemen,
Open up your
unfortunately...
data. Open up your election data and you'll see that two Khalistanis won landslide victories. Check your facts.
Okay, I can see Gulrez disagrees.
You're the biggest hypocrisy in the world, and we will handle you.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to end it there. Gentlemen, I'd like to thank all three of you so much for joining us on this edition of the Newsmakers, and our viewers, of course, for being with us as well. Remember, you can follow us on X, and do be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Andrea Sankey. We'll see you next time.